الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. يا رب لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في سبيل ربه حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم ارضه عنا وعن والدينا وعن الإسلام والمسلمين خير ما جازيت به نبيا عن قومه ورسولا عن أمته. اللهم احنا على سنته وتوفنا على ملته وأوردنا حوضه واسقنا من يده الشريفة شربة هنيئة لا نظمأ بعدها أبدا. ثم أما بعد, my dear respected brothers and sisters, why is that the day of Ashura is celebrated differently in the Sunni and the Shia communities? In the Sunni communities, there's no mention of what happened at all. The killing of Imam Al-Hussein, and they talk about what happened to Musa alayhi salam and following the sunnah of fasting this day. In the Shia community, the day is celebrated totally differently. It's a very busy day where no mention of Musa alayhi salam and no mention of the sunnah of fasting this day, and all focus is on the commemoration of the assassination of Imam Al-Hussein radiallahu anhu wa ardah. And perhaps it's useful to give a very, very brief history of the beginning of the division. I know Friday perhaps is not enough to talk about these historic events, but it is perhaps useful to know the root of the differences, which started politically and then turned into theological and juridical differences after this. The big question when it comes to the difference between Sunnis and Shias, the main question is who is the most qualified to be the successor of the Prophet ﷺ. The death of the Prophet ﷺ perhaps was one of the greatest crises the Muslim Ummah went through. It's very difficult even to imagine how difficult it was. But the big question, even before the burial of the Prophet ﷺ, who should be the leader of this great Ummah that the Prophet ﷺ was very successful in building. Another question, the branch of this big question, did the Prophet ﷺ in fact name someone to be the leader of the Muslim Ummah after him? We know that the Prophet ﷺ guided us in many affairs, in many things in our life. But in this particular part, the division began with Muslim Sunnis. They believe that the Prophet never named anyone. And the question would be why? This could have solved so many problems. The Prophet ﷺ clearly said, this person is the Khalifa after me, then that's it. So the Sunni answered this question by saying that that's true. The Prophet ﷺ could have named someone and this would have closed the door for any dispute, which is still taking place until now. But the Prophet ﷺ told us clearly that I have left behind you two things that you will never go astray as long as you adhere to them. The Kitab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my Sunnah, my teaching, right? And the Kitab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we all know, consists of 114 surah. One of these surahs is known as Surah Ash-Shura. And his teaching, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you read the Prophet's seerah very carefully, you'll find out that he did not make major decisions without practicing shura. So shura is, as a principle, is well established in the text in the Quran. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَ بَيْنَهُمْ وَشَاوِرُهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. And the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, consulting his companions before he makes big decisions. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not choose someone because he wants the community, the Muslim Ummah, to use this principle of shura and to choose for themselves. Practice shura. Choose your leader. He ﷺ knew full well that he's dying, ﷺ. And in his khutbah al-wada' he said, people listen carefully because I don't know if I will see you again. And few days before his death, he ﷺ was not feeling well, and he came out and he gave a brief khutbah in which he said that one of Allah's servants have been given the choice to live on this earth or to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he chose to go to Allah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu was crying. He understood that the Prophet is talking about himself. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not name anyone in particular to be his successor or Khalifa, because he left the guidance, use it. Allah said, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَ بَيْنَهُمْ, and I practice shura all the time. Even if the shura goes against the Prophet's opinion, he would leave his opinion and he follows the shura. That was very well established in many different occasions in the Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore, he did not choose anybody, and he left it to the community to choose based on this principle of shura. The Shia community or Shia Muslims believe no, that's not the case. The case is that the Prophet clearly named Ali to be his successor. And from their point of view, that no one is more qualified to lead the Muslim Ummah than Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet ﷺ, because they are ma'soom. Ma'soom means they are infallible. They don't make sins. Allah protected them from committing any sins, like all prophets. So therefore, it doesn't make any sense if someone else claims that he's more qualified. And the Prophet named Ali, according to the Shia perspective, as his successor. And they came up with this idea of imamat. Imamat means the imam, in this case the Prophet ﷺ, the leader, chooses the next imam, and Ali chose Al-Hasan, and then Hassan chose. So the choice of the imam is ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everyone in the community should follow. That's another point of view. So we have basically two political systems or points of view. One is based on caliphate. The community chooses their leaders based on shura. And the other one is imamate. Imamate means that the imam chooses the next imam before his death. And because they are ma'soom, no one is more qualified than them. This is very briefly one of the roots of the differences. Ironically, neither of these two systems survived for so long. The caliphate system stayed only for 4 leaders, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, and then the system came to an end when Muawiyah chose his son to be the next caliph. I would say corrupt son, Yazid, to be the next caliph, and he killed Shura by doing that. And the imamate system worked only for 5 years. When Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was the caliph, and his son Al-Hasan for 6 months, total 5 years, almost 5 years, and then did not survive. The Umayyads actually came up with a new system. It has nothing to do with Shura, and had nothing to do with Ahlul Bayt. In fact, they took Ahlul Bayt as enemies, knowing that people love them so much and respect them so much. So they have been tortured and massacred, persecuted, humiliated in the time of Yazid. Karbala was not the only tragedy that took place. In fact, there is something called Waqat al-Hirra, when al-Madinah Munawwara, hundreds of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum were killed, and homes were burned, and so much atrocities have been committed 3 days in Medina. And next year, Mecca was also, Kaaba was thrown by rocks, and the sanctity of Al-Kaaba has been also violated. So when it comes to what happened actually in Ashura, actually perhaps it's a good time for us to think about our own history. While Sunnis always claim that they love Ahlul Bayt and respect Ahlul Bayt and send peace and blessing upon them in every prayer. In fact, the word Ahlul Bayt was mentioned in the Quran 2 times. One in Surah Hud, when the angels came to visit Ibrahim and to give him a good news about having a new son, Ishaq. They said, Rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu alaykum Ahlul Bayt. May Allah's mercy and blessings be upon you, Ahlul Bayt, the family of Ibrahim. And the second context in which the word Ahlul Bayt was mentioned is when Allah was talking to the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Surah Al-Ahzab, and then Allah says, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to remove away from you any filth, all people of Al-Bayt, the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah wants to purify you. You have a special status, and you have to understand this. So Ahlul Bayt was mentioned in the context of Ibrahim and the context of Muhammad. That's why in every salah we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. to the end of at-tashahhud. So we remember these two households, Ibrahim and the family of Ibrahim, Muhammad and the family of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So from one perspective, it's kind of difficult to understand that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum did ignore or disobey the Prophet. If the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told everybody that Ali should be the caliph, then why didn't the Sahaba radiallahu anhum follow and obey? And as a result, it's very unfortunate to think of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, as hypocrites and as people who disobeyed the Prophet to take this caliphate for themselves. It's very difficult to forget about the riwayat and narrations. We know Al-Quran is our main reference. Quran talked about the Sahaba al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar, especially those who came to Islam in the early stage, when Islam was politically weak. Abu Bakr was the first man to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ali was the first boy and Khadija was the first woman. Why would a very well-respected, wealthy businessman like Abu Bakr sacrifice all this business? And from day one until the death of the Prophet was always with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Quran indirectly talked about Abu Bakr when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about al-Hijrah and how the Prophet and his Thani Athnain, the Prophet was the second of two, talked about Abu Bakr. No doubt, that was Abu Bakr. Why would Abu Bakr disobey the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? For what? For building kingdom? Did Abu Bakr live like a king? Did he give the Khilafah to his son? Did he took advantage of this position? No. He ruled for less than 3 years, full of troubles and challenges and so on. The same thing, Umar radiallahu anhu. Why would Umar radiallahu anhu disobey the Prophet? For what? Again, he did not live in a palace. We all know how Umar lived a very simple life. And he did not actually elect his son to be the next caliph. In fact, he made it clear that my son should not be involved in anything after me. And Allah blessed these two individuals, Abu Bakr and Umar, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them, with such great honor anybody can think about, to be buried next to the body, the best and the most pure body Allah has created. To get such great honor to be buried next to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's difficult to believe that these people, with this personality and how they lived their life, how they ruled with justice and fairness, that they just became hypocrites and the Prophet said something and they intentionally ignored it. For what? Ignored it for what? Allah said clearly, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ. Allah is so pleased with the believers who gave you pledge of allegiance and under the tree. That's referring to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. لَقَدْ تَابَ اللَّهُ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. Those who followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially in the expedition of Tabuk. Allah said clearly, Allah is pleased with them. Nobody else can just accuse them of being hypocrites or disobedient of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's very difficult to imagine. At the same time, the other approach of just ignore history, all these fighting and fitna that happened, don't talk about it, don't read it, don't talk about it, just ignore it. Ignorance is not an answer. Because guess what? If we don't read our own history, someone else will. And this is exactly what it is. Orientalists, Western scholars, they read our history and bring things up and we don't know how to answer this. Because we have been told, don't read. Why are you reading about this? And again, ignorance is not an answer. We have to objectively read our own history. And if we criticize or the Shia community of thinking of Ahlul Bayt as infallible, theoretically we think of the Sahaba as infallible. We believe that the Sahaba are the best of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the best human, as human could be. But we don't believe the Sahaba were ma'soom. They made mistakes. I know some are very fanatic and if you just dare to criticize one of the Sahaba, then you are out of Islam. Ya akhi, who said they are ma'soom? We respect them, we love them. But some of them made mistakes, and some of them actually admitted they made mistakes in their own life. What's wrong with that? Who is more important, principles or individuals? Sahabas are not ma'soom. Even Ahlul Bayt are not ma'soom. They are the best of all people, we believe. The Sahaba who stood with the Prophet, sacrificed everything, are the best of, of all people. But this does not mean that they are ma'soom. Are human beings, they made mistakes, and we have to learn. As we learn from the good things that have been done, we also need to learn from the mistakes that happened in the past. That's how we read history, but we cannot read history with one eye. Oh no, everything was perfect, everybody was good. So how do you answer this? I mean, people fighting each other and everybody was right? I mean, it's difficult to believe that. It's difficult to believe that. And the Prophet ﷺ talked about al-fi' al-baghiyah, the transgressors. When he told, hadith is our references, it's not coming from anywhere else. When he told Ammar ibn Yasir that the transgressor group will kill you. And that was not Ali's group, it was the other group who killed him. So, if we criticize others of exaggerating in some events, we need also to think about how we read our history, how we interpret it. And one of the criticisms of how the Ashura Day is celebrated is that in Islam we cannot invent or innovate something that out of Islam. There are so many atrocities happen in Islamic history. The biggest one, as I mentioned, is the death of the Prophet. Why don't we celebrate or commemorate the death of the Prophet? Omar was killed while leading Fajr prayer. Uthman was assassinated. Ali was killed. And definitely, Ali is better than his son Al-Hassan al-Hussein. May Allah be pleased with all of them. So why the killing of Al-Hussein is celebrated in such a way? What's really problematic here is turning history into theology. History is history. But turning history in part of our aqidah, that's very problematic. Very problematic. Turning a particular historic event into part of your belief system, that's problematic. That's problematic. The main event that for any Christian in the world is the crucifixion of Jesus. That's for every Christian, and that's why the cross actually symbolizes the whole theology of Christianity. You look at the cross, that says everything about Christianity. This is the heart of Christianity. We cannot turn a particular historic event that happened after the death of the Prophet ﷺ into a theological event. Theology has been made right before the death of the Prophet. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Today I have perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you. The Prophet did not leave anything for us to add. Everything was perfectly completed. And then to express our sadness in a way that goes directly and clearly against the teaching of the Prophet, but hurting ourselves and hurting our children and bleed, and that goes directly against the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. Not one of us, the one who hit his face or tear his clothes in the time of sadness. If we are to think about so many things that make us sad as Muslims, we have to think about so many other things happen. This is not to say it was not a tragedy, it was a tragedy. So a huge sin to humiliate and to massacre the family of the Prophet ﷺ. It's a crime. But we cannot turn this crime and our love to Imam Hussein into a part of our theological belief system. Our deen is complete. But we need actually, as Sunnis, I will turn now to say that we also, I don't know why, we ignore talking about Ahlul Bayt. We don't even know who they are. And why Imam Hussein struggled. He did not struggle because of his own. He did not seek to be a Khalifa or anything. He fought on behalf of the Ummah when he saw the teaching of Muhammad, the Shura, that Allah talked about and Muhammad practiced, is being killed. When someone just chose his corrupt son to the next caliph and killed the right of the Ummah to choose. As many said that from that moment on, when the Ummah opinion was ignored, that's when all problems happen. And Imam Hussein actually found out that that's the counter-revolution. If we think of Islam as a revolution that came to reform people's life, I believe the killing of Hussein, the way it happened, that marks the coming back of the counter-revolution. Quraysh could not stop Islam, but someone else did. It became a monarch, family business, power, authority, control. That's why we call the first four Al-Khulafa al-Rashidin, which indicates indirectly. Others, those who came after, were not really Rashidin. They're Khulafa because they have the power. If you don't obey them, you'll be in big trouble. And many of the great ulama, we know Abu Hanifa, radiallahu anhu, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Malik, all of them have been tortured physically because they expressed their love to Ahlul Bayt and respect to Ahlul Bayt. And perhaps that's why many Muslim Sunnis don't like to talk about Ahlul Bayt, because if you talk so much about Ahlul Bayt, then maybe you will be accused of being a Shia or having a Shia hidden agenda or something like this. Brothers and sisters, we have to be objective. We have to be clear about what we do. We love Ahlul Bayt. We mention them in every prayer. If you don't, then your prayer is not complete. If you don't say Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. In every janazah prayer, we mention that. Last thing we mention, when we take someone to his or her grave, we send peace and blessing upon the Prophet and his family. And we should read more about them, understand their seerah, and why they sacrificed, and why they have been humiliated very badly. Up until now, many people speak negatively about them and praise those who killed them and tortured them. We just need to read our own history objectively and see what happened, why it happened. What would lead some people to kill and massacre the family of the Prophet ﷺ? And in politics, all these things are normal. You cross all ethical limits to gain authority and power. This is what happened in the past, this is what's happening now. This is part of the game. It was Muhammad and Ali Muhammad radiallahu anhu, who, when they came to power, they forgave and let go. And he asked the people of Quraysh sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what do you think I'm going to do to you after all these wars and fighting and persecution and killing? He said, you are an honorable person, and the son of an honorable man said, you are all free. May Allah forgive all of us. This is what Muhammad and the family of Muhammad did when they were in power. They did not abuse this power because he's a messenger of Allah, Rahman al-Alameen. And the only thing he requested, the only thing, he said, I don't need any reward from you for this message. The only thing I request is to be nice to my household, my family. So if some actually are exaggerating in reading history, others are not reading history at all. Both are problematic. We need to read our history and understand it, and always think about principles, not individuals. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Brothers and sisters, before I conclude, I want to invite all of you today, inshallah, or tonight after Maghrib, to this orientation meeting. We're starting a brand new youth program. It's a comprehensive program. I'm working with brother and sister youth directors, and of course with the board and the youth committee. We are starting a comprehensive program that prepares our high school students, inshallah, for the college experience. And we want to empower them with spiritual, intellectual, and social knowledge, and teaching Islam that is connected to the source, the Quran and the Sunnah, and also relevant to our time. We need to answer questions in the minds of our high school students. So this program will start next week, next Jumma, inshallah, but tonight there will be an orientation meeting. All parents are invited to know exactly what kind of activities we are planning to have, what are the objectives of this program, and I will also need your help and your support, your advice. So tonight after Maghrib, inshallah, we'll have this orientation program when we introduce the objectives and the activities of this program to the parents. There are many people already registered in this to be, inshallah, a weekly presentation and then open discussion, Q&A. I'll be teaching, inshallah, this class, and Brother Ali, Ahmed, and Sister Zarmeen, the youth directors, are also preparing plenty of very fun, nice activities. So it's not going to be only educational, but to be educational and also social and fun activities, and running a number of workshops that focus on life skills. So I hope and pray that this will attract so many of our youth to come here to build a social network and to be attached to the masjid and to engage in an intellectual discussion about what's happening in our world and how we can understand and practice Islam in our context. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this program a great success, and inshallah we need your prayer, your dua, and your support, and inshallah if you have high school students, think seriously about registering them in this program, inshallah. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى، اللهم إنا نسألك رزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا، اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا. اللهم اجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر، يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث، وأصلح لنا شأننا كله. اللهم لا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين ولا إلى أحد من الناس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اشفنا واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين، وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين، وانصر الإسلام وعز المسلمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وقم السلام.